did here. So thank you for coming. But since I started a year and a half ago, the Chamber always had these meetings at 8 a.m. the fourth Wednesday of every month. I'm sorry if I sound like a broken record that you've heard this, but it's a really great way for me to explain why we have done what we've been doing. But we have not had a lot of participation with them. So what we did was, well, some of these 8 o'clocks just don't work. People commute, getting the kids on the school bus. I have 2 dogs, one with special needs, so trying to get out of the house too, it's like I'm struggling sometimes. So what we started doing as of last year was seeing what times work best for our members. We did an 8 o'clock one, saw how many people attended. Did a 12 o'clock one, same thing. Then we did a 5, and then we kept, rotating the times, and then also offering our chamber members to host these events. Our members absolutely love the idea of hosting. It's a great way for them to showcase, like, hey, we're here in the community, this is who we are, this is what we do, this is our location. I mean, who here before today ever came here? I know I have not. Shut up, Andy. But it's a really great way to see what Orland Park all has in our community, right? So we love that, but what we've been discovering is sometimes that 8 o'clock time doesn't really work for people. Tinley Park, however, their MMMs are 8 o'clock or 8:30, but they've had such a long precedent with that, and for their members, it works for them. For us, it didn't. Now 5 o'clock too can be quite tough because people are getting off of work at 5, commuting home, got kids, summertime, it's hard. So our happy spot is the noon. And we've discovered that we get anywhere between 35, and the maximum we've had was close to 55. I think it was like 53 people. So that right there tells me oh, you know what, for Orland Park, it's lunch and learns. And that's what we're gonna continue come 2026. Every month, what I want to introduce is consistency. It's a great way we're all busy, right? Whether in our personal lives or professional lives, having that consistency, it just stays in the back of our mind. The only thing that's probably going to shift is our location, because again, we want to put our members first. This is a great opportunity for them just to showcase their facility. So that's that. Like I said, we had 8 more people register for this thing, but I don't know, with a bunch of people's AC units out from the library having issues to here to our office isn't working.
They're all at home with their parent people right now. That's what's happening.
Man, it's crazy. Yeah. But I just wanted to say a couple things. And then, first, does anybody have any questions for me? No. Okay. So really, first, we just rolled out our brand new 2025 Business and Community Guide. So if you have not received this, we do have copies of this. I'm also happy we have boxes of these, so if the library wants some at the library, same with you. If you want to provide these for residents, we can, you guys can keep the stack, and then obviously we can also drop off boxes. Since we're not in the office, we could just do a bunch of site visits now. But that's that. Really excited to get this rolled out from all of our fantastic new board of directors. So you can check that out. To a message from the brand new mayor that was just newly elected. To other things that we are all doing, including the Orland Women's Networking events that we're doing. Introduction to our brand new chamber president, Dan McMillan, who's the CFO of Rizza Ford and the other dealerships on 159th Street. So definitely grab a copy here. The other thing I just wanted to mention before I turn over to Sean Noble is our awesome Bite to Brews and Blues event that is happening. You guys have some cards at your tables. So a couple of years ago, we started Summerfest, and then Summerfest was a great event. However, it really did not meet the mission of the chamber, which was really, of course, putting our members in the forefront. So this event is pretty similar to what the chamber used to do with arts and drafts. We just pulled out the arts part because that wasn't as popular as what it was when arts and drafts started. But the brews part, we want to bring that back. We're having a bunch of food trucks, so like a food truck festival, and then we're having a bunch of craft vendors, stuff for kids, and then of course blues, live blues music. So we're looking to make this become a community staple. It's July 19th, right here at the Orland Park Crossing. skip, hop, and a jump away. But we have vendor tables available if you know of anybody, really wanting to get their business out there, whether they're selling crafts or just wanting to promote services that they provide. It's a really great way to, meet with the community. Yeah.
Do you need any volunteers to help you run the event?
Are you volunteering?
Of course I know.
Yeah. Absolutely. And if the library wants a table, and
Sure.
you guys have a lot of fun, like the spin the wheel.
Oh yeah,
and
we have a
all
lot
that.
of things.
Yeah.
I'm
So yeah, it's only even $75 to have a table with we're expecting about 1,000 people, hopefully more. And again, this is the very first year, so we want to set that precedent, and it's a great way for you guys to get your business out there, and then get the brand visible, and then for next year just keep growing ton. So if you want to grab these, spread them to your contacts. The more the merrier, of course. Questions? No.
I just think this is a great idea because I remember when we did Summerfest last year, so many people said they were coming specifically for the food truck offerings. So I think this is fabulous idea.
Yeah, and then too, it's a way for us to promote our members, making sure they have tables if they want to be a vendor. And then too, if you're a tenant of the Orland Park Crossing, you get it for free because they've been minimizing the number of events specifically at the crossing, like the bingo they're not doing again this year, but instead they're wanting to jump on board with more of the chamber offering. So, helping us with Bites, Brews, and Blues, and then in September, we're doing a wine event, like a wine walk, wine tasting. We're having some casino games with Viva La Vino, so wine tasting with a twist of Vegas, so it'll be a lot of fun. But I'm not marketing that today. It's Bites, Brews, and Blues. That's what I'm doing. But any questions will be around, but I'm actually going to turn it over to Sean Noble, who I actually met back in November when I was down in Springfield for the annual IACCE conference, so the Illinois Association for Chamber of Commerce Executives. So he grabbed me and he's like, hey, would you like to become a member of Ready Nation? He explained to me what it's all about. I'll let him explain that to you. And I absolutely love the idea, love what they stood for. I signed up right away, and then we also met with a couple state representatives too back in January. It was nice to actually speak with them one-on-one too at the chamber office when all of our mechanisms worked very well. But at that time, our heating was perfect.
Oh, yeah.
It was January,
Yeah.
so
No
sweat
Yeah.
down your back. But we had a really great conversation, and I'm looking to get more involved with Ready Nation. I love what they all stand for. And I'm excited for him to present to you guys as to even what you guys can do with your businesses and nonprofits. So, turn over, Mr. Sean.
Thank you, Sarah. I appreciate the informality here because that's kind of how I roll. So thanks, Sarah, and Andy and Mike and all of you for the opportunity to talk with you for a few minutes this evening about what the prejudice source talking about it, but I think the intersection of a couple of really important issues that is the reason that Ready Nation exists and the reason that we're grateful that we have members such as Sarah that are working with us on these things. Ready Nation is a nonprofit, nonpartisan network of business executives from a wide range of sectors and industries, from IT and construction and manufacturing to healthcare and communications, Chamber of Commerce execs. We have, among our 270 plus members, we've got directors and managers of various kinds from 86 different local chambers of commerce throughout the state. I counted that yesterday to make sure that I had that figure right. And what draws them all together in this membership is concern for the intersection of two things. One is trying to ensure that our workforce is stable and productive and high quality. Our economy is firing on all cylinders. That's number one. And number two, how can we help to achieve those goals by ensuring that we're, as a state, as a nation, investing more wisely in kids' learning and development from their earliest years of learning on up. So there's plenty of research that helps to connect the dots between those two really important things, and that's what our work is all about, is helping business leaders who really have a very important, notable and successful role in pointing out for the public in general and policymakers in particular, like Sarah was saying, the meeting that we had with Senator Cunningham and Representative Gill here a few months ago, to help them understand how these things that we're talking about and that I'll detail a little bit really are not just priorities for individual kids and their working families. These are economic priorities. And we've had, grateful to say that in the nearly 20 years that Ready Nation's been around, we've had some working with a lot of partners, because we don't work on anything on our own. We have a lot of good partners in the policy, advocacy, service provision, and of course business worlds that care about things like childcare. They care about high quality preschool education, early childhood education, birth to 3 services, several different sets of birth to 3 services, all of these things that help to put kids on the right path from early in life and try to keep them there. I should point out who we're not as well. We're not providers of any of these services. We don't have any classrooms or clinics of our own. We point to the work of local school districts and community-based providers of child care and other services, and we basically say to policymakers, we need to strengthen these things. So we're not, as Ready Nation, we're not looking to government for funding for ourselves for anything, because thankfully we're funded privately through philanthropies such as the Robert McCormick Foundation, the Clement and Jesse Stone Foundation, Irving Harris Foundation, philanthropies that care about these issues. And so we don't ask government for funding for ourselves, and we don't charge our members any kind of dues or fees, and there's no obligations, thankfully. Our private funding takes care of the things for us. There's 2 of us staff, so 50% of the staff are here today with you. But I'm going to pause here too to say I've got of course paper products to pass around here, and the first one is just, I got a sign-on sheet with the pen that needs to go with it. For anybody that, if you'd like to learn a little bit more later on, I'm happy to reconnect with you after the fact and send you some more materials, talk with you about membership if you're interested. We'll get back to all of that at the end. But I've got also these, I'm going to keep Glenn very busy here, I apologize. But I got 3 other materials to pass around as well. So you have a little bit more on paper about us, and thank you, Sarah and staff, for running all of those off for us here.
Do you want me to pass those out?
Oh, sure. Thank you very much. Yes, I would try to do it, but the multitasking is not going to work too well for me. Thank you. Kind of turning to those intersection of issues that I was mentioning, research and experience really demonstrate that high-quality childcare, early education, and early childhood priorities like that are important to our economy on 2 main levels. One is the workforce of today, working parents, and ensuring they have what they need. And secondly is the workforce of tomorrow, making sure that we're building a foundation of skills that tomorrow's workforce, who are today's pre-kindergarten kids, a foundation of skills that they can really build on. So that they are going to succeed both in school and then when they're hitting the job market, and they're applying for work, and when they're eventually becoming employers, managers, entrepreneurs in their own right. One of the handouts that you've got coming to you is a summary of some of the polling results that we got from a survey that we commissioned. Ready Nation, working with national polling firm of Zogby Analytics out of New York State, we commissioned 5 months ago. 400 Illinois employers and managers were the subject of this poll. And you'll be able to see there some of the results that we found when we were asking them about some of the issues that we care about. And we knew that they did too. And what we saw was findings such as this. Over 4 out of 5 of these business leader respondents to the survey agreed that their employees struggle with finding and retaining stable, affordable child care and early childhood programs. I'm sure any of you who are employers and managers and directors probably have a sense of that as well. Child care is a pretty big deal. We like to think of it as the workforce behind our entire workforce, because without it, folks aren't working. And COVID was a pretty good demonstration of that, of course, a few years ago when child care essentially shut down for some time. And it really shut down a big swath of the economy with it. So among those surveyed employers and managers who said childcare is in way too short supply for my employees. They went on to help detail for us what that means, what the consequences are for their workforce. Almost 60% said they've seen their workforce losing wages because of the inability to find, access, retain affordable childcare. Almost half said they'd seen employees lose jobs, lose positions because of a lack of childcare. Over 1/3 said they'd seen employees forego promotions that they might have otherwise gotten or taken, because sometimes when you're moving up in employment and taking on a promotion, among other things, you could get to a wage level where if you might have qualified before for childcare assistance, you might be losing your assistance when you fall off a cliff. So even lost promotions. Overall, about 2/3 of business executives reported reduced productivity from their employees because employees are too often stuck with trying to piece together childcare options when there's not enough around. So that was over 2/3. And between half and 2/3 noted the resulting need to replace the displaced workers and to train new hires. It's no surprise really that nearly 93% of surveyed business executives agreed that high quality childcare and early childhood are important to workforce stability and productivity overall. And with the help of some earlier research that we conducted a few years ago, we can actually hang a price tag on what all of this means for our workforce and economy. Ready Nation released a report in 2023 that detailed the way that the child care crisis overall, for our country, it costs $122 billion of lost economic activity every year, $122 billion annually. About 2/3 of that amount represents losses to working parents. About 20% relates to employers' own bottom line, those squandered productivity costs, costs of hiring and retraining and so forth. And looking at just Illinois specifically, the child care crisis costs our state about $5 billion a year in lost economic activity. And that was a couple of years ago. What we found was those figures had more than doubled since before COVID. So I'm not sure what they are today, but I have a feeling they're probably a couple of ticks higher than $5 billion as well. And one of the most striking things about these findings is that our research really focused specifically on the child care crisis as it relates to infants and toddlers. So these numbers don't even reflect the insufficiencies in child care for older kids, school-age kids, from about age 3 on up to 12 or so. So these price tags would explode if we'd have done an even broader analysis. But thinking about not only the workforce of today, but trying to build the workforce of tomorrow, again, an ongoing and future concern for laying a foundation of skills for kids that are going to help them in school and then in work. In our survey, we found that about 4 out of 5 business executives were reporting difficulties in finding and hiring job candidates who had the requisite skills that were needed for the jobs they were applying for. That was true both of technical skills, such as literacy and math, and non-technical or soft skills, or executive functioning skills, 21st century skills. They have a million names, but they all mean the same thing. It's those skills that they're not as much paper and pencil as they are the being able to get along with your coworkers, being able to work in teams or independently, showing up for work every day on time, doing it again tomorrow, doing it again the next week, and so on and so forth. And from our members, Ready Nation members who are business leaders, we hear more concern about the soft skills deficits these days than we do even the hard skills. It's been a growing concern over the last, I've been with Ready Nation for a dozen years, and those concerns have just exploded in the last few years. A pretty stunning 95% of survey respondents said that their businesses are spending more to recruit skilled applicants today than they were in previous years. And more than 3/4 acknowledge that skills development is far more difficult for employment-aged adults than it is for kids, which only stands to reason. Kids in their earliest years of development, brain science research always tells us that, among other things, 90% of brain development, the development of the brain's architecture, neural pathways that are going to form a lifetime's worth of infrastructure for further learning and development, 90% of it takes place before kids hit kindergarten age. So it's a pretty important stage of life for us to try to reach kids and give them the services that are going to help them and that their parents often want but sometimes can't access or don't know where to find them. And studies also show that it's far more costly and less effective to try to remediate problems a little further down the road as kids get a little bit older. It's a lot tougher than it is to swim upstream of these problems in the first place in early childhood and get ahead of them. And we see this from national assessments all the time. Only 1/3 of 4th graders and 1/4 of 8th graders in Illinois are considered proficient in math. And only about 3 in 10 of students in those 2 grade levels are deemed to be proficient in English and language arts. You know, there's a whole range of issues in grade school, in middle school. Getting kids to high school graduation can be challenging enough, but then of the Illinois graduates who went on to community college, about 28% require remediation, extra courses to bring them up to speed to where we were hoping they would be when they left high school, when they walked out with that diploma at graduation time. So that helps to underscore this, the importance, once again, of swimming upstream of these challenges as well. And we can see from further stats that we're not doing as great a job in Illinois, the rest of the nation too, but the Illinois State Board of Education has a report that comes out every year that really helps to illustrate just how high of a bar we need to get to still. Fewer than 32% of the incoming kindergartners in the fall of 2023 were considered fully prepared to begin their formal education. They were lacking some of the most basic skills in early literacy, early math, and social emotional development that they were going to need for a lifetime of learning. And really, starting to sum up here, this is why we exist as Ready Nation, is because those statistics we find to be pretty scary, pretty daunting. Again, not just for individual children's futures, but what it means for our entire economy. And so what we do at Ready Nation is, our work boils down largely to communications with the public in general and policymakers in particular. And our poll is a good example of that, the polling results that I've been talking about. The poll that we were really grateful to see, at the bottom line, it showed that 91.5% of surveyed Illinois employers and managers said they support the idea of greater public investments in high quality early education and child care. 51% expressing strong support. Increasingly, business leaders get it. They see these connections. And their experience and their credibility is why their voices, your voices, are so important to the policymaking process in Springfield, in DC, and so forth. And an example of what we do, once again, those polling results, when we got them, end of January, beginning of February, we held a news conference in Rockford at an early childhood center. And we had the mayor, the school superintendent, and even better than that, we had several of our Ready Nation members join us for that, to kind of unpack the results of this poll for the media. And that included an aerospace industry executive who's been a Ready Nation member for a dozen years. We had the leaders of the Dixon Chamber of Commerce and the Rockford Black Chamber of Commerce. We had the owner of a local employment, a job placement firm join us to talk about, from their own perspectives, why this is so important to jump on these issues. We wound up with some really good print and TV news coverage, and we took those articles and the poll results and we put those things in the hands of a lot of policymakers over the course of the spring, both in Springfield and also at the federal level in DC. And it served as a pretty good framing of our message that we need to do better by little kids and their working parents if we want to do better by our economy. And it's essentially the message that back in January that Sarah was kind enough to help us share with Senator Cunningham and Representative Gill. We took a group of our business leaders from northwestern Illinois all the way down to southern Illinois to the Capitol for a Ready Nation Day at the Capitol event beginning of May. And we were able to meet with the legislative leaders and lay our poll results out and say these are economic priorities that we hope you'll pay attention to in the among other things, the state budget that you're working on. I'm grateful to say that as an example of the kinds of results that our business leaders helped to achieve. In the state budget that just passed, and it's going to go into effect next week, July 1st for FY26, there are $170 million of additional state investments in child care for working parents. And particularly in a tight budget year, and it's been a big surprise, a tight budget year, but this was a huge big deal to ensure this kind of an increase, and especially since about half of that is targeted particularly to childcare teachers and other support staff who are, once again, the workforce behind the workforce, but they are chronically, dramatically underpaid for the important work that they do. So our state's on a path of several years' worth of trying to ramp up investments in childcare salaries, compensation, to help shore that up. Another example of something that Ready Nation's been able to do over the years. In 2009, we worked with partners to help establish the state's first, and I think it was the nation's first, state-based early childhood construction grant initiative. So it was a $45 million program of grant support for preschool and childcare providers with bricks and mortar needs. Renovate a building that needs it, build new classrooms that are necessary, and so forth. And $45 million when you're talking about capital projects doesn't go very far, but it was a good injection of resources that were needed. That was 2009. 10 years later, we wrote the House and the Senate resolutions that encouraged the successful reauthorization and more than doubling to $100 million for a second round of early childhood construction grants. And we're really proud of that because that's just a drop in the bucket of the needs out there, but it's $100 million more than there would have been otherwise. And one other example, we're coming up on the 10-year anniversary next month of when the administration in Springfield at the time cut back pretty dramatically on eligibility for child care assistance for working parents. So deeply that within a matter of weeks, 50,000 children in Illinois and their working parents lost their eligibility for child care assistance. And that was a pretty big deal for our state's economy, for our workforce. So what we did, our Ready Nation members got together with, as always, a lot of our partners, advocate allies, and so forth. We attended hearings on this subject, and we put op-eds in the newspaper on this subject, and we said childcare has to be restored if we really want a fully vibrant, functioning workforce. And it took a few years to do it, but eligibility was restored for parents. And so childcare remains one of the core things that we work on, but not the only thing. Some of those partners that we work with a lot, and I was mentioning to my dinner seatmates here, that among the partners that we work with are some that come from the world of civic leaders who aren't business leaders as well. Fight Crime Investing Kids is a group of 350 plus Illinois sheriffs, state's attorneys, and police chiefs who work on these same issues, but instead of the economic arguments, they're coming at it from what's good for public safety, what's good for crime prevention, because again, the research connects the dots here. And one of the names that stands out in my mind, because Ready Nation does work, we're joined at the hip with these other two groups, Fight Crime and the other one I mentioned. I believe Orland Park is where Tim McCarthy was police chief for years and years, and he was one of our most fantastic members for a long time. We love working with Chief McCarthy. Mission Readiness Illinois is another group that we also work with, and that is, interestingly, that's retired admirals and generals from the military saying national security depends in large part on whether we've got a well-educated, well-supported, healthy, a group of Americans, Illinoisans, from their earliest years of learning in life on up. And that's a lot of fun to work with because policymakers are not looking for a retired 3-star Air Force general to come in talking about why preschool is an important priority for our country. And there's a whole host of other partners that we work with as well, from the service provision field, the policy and advocacy field, civic life, and so on and so forth. But our main core strength is our own members themselves, the business leaders who hear these things and they see that they're important, they care about them, they'd like to work on them, but business leaders have a 9-to-5 job of their own to do in their individual businesses, and if they don't have a lot of time, a lot of personal expertise in these subjects, childcare policy or what's going on in Springfield or DC where we could hopefully make a difference, that's okay, because that's why my colleague Sally and I exist. Our entire job is to look for opportunities to try to raise our voices, to grab a meeting with a local state senator or state rep, or go to Springfield, or put an op-ed in the paper, or release a research report which we try to do that pretty regularly too, to kind of galvanize these, the research and the arguments together, and again, serve as the basis for a news conference or an event or so forth, and share this information. And I'll just close by saying that's what Ready Nation participation is all about. If you're a business leader, if you're a business owner, manager, executive of any kind who might be interested in this kind of work, we would love to talk with you further. I'd love to talk with you further. Because we really, there are no obligations. We try to make participation in Ready Nation as user-friendly as possible for the members, because that's the only reason we have members, is if we keep it user-friendly for them. And again, no obligations. Being a member means you're simply kept in the loop of the work that we do, the research that we put out, and activities that we've got coming up that if you're interested in, you can take part in, and if you don't have any time or interest, take a pass. There's always things down the road that you might be interested in. And now I'll really close by saying, I often think about a cartoon I saw years and years ago of a CEO and a CFO having a business conversation around a table, and the CFO says to the CEO, hey boss, what if we invest in our people and they leave us? And CEO turns to him and says, what if we don't invest in them and they stick around? And I like to think that's what our work is all about, is because we're trying to invest in the young people of Illinois and hoping that they'll stay here and become the fantastic business leaders of tomorrow. So thank you very much for your time and attention. You let me go a long time, and I appreciate it, sir. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Don't worry.
Good to hear your passion.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. We appreciate it. Cindy?
Do you work with local workforce investment boards and the Illinois Workforce Investment Board?
We should
Uh-huh.
more often, and we just haven't. But they're
Okay.
totally people that, I know in the past we have cross paths, but it's been a long time ago.
Okay.
Workforce investment boards, economic development corporations, local chambers, those are some of the core food groups that are really folks that at the rubber hits the road level, and we should do more work with
I know
them.
some
We just
people I
haven't.
can connect you with, for
Yeah.
sure, yeah.
Mhm.
Anybody else?
Thank you very much.
Presentation was so
Appreciate it.
informative.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Yes, yes.
Thank you.
Well, guys, grab more food,
Yes.
hang out.
Full
I mean, I'm not taking
containers,
you
if
out.
anyone wants to
Taking you out? Yeah,
Yeah,
no.